welcome to another webisode of my story, where I tell my life story in fictional format for 15 minutes at a time in a webisode on YouTube. So welcome to another webisode of my story of my life. I do want to emphasize before I start today, I do want to stress as much as I possibly can, this is a fictional story. This is not my real story. And this is not a revenge story. It is not a revenge story. I'm not trying to get revenge on my mother. I'm not trying to get revenge on anyone in my life. I did want to tell the truth and let the truth be out there, but that's just insane in today's world. And in the country that I'm living in, I fear being locked up and put away and not being able to live a life of freedom. And that's just my heart's desire, is to live a life of freedom. So with that being said, this is a fictional story, and I need to stress that. I can't stress enough how fictional this story is. It is not a real story. This is not a real story, okay? All right. So, I have to stress that because I've debated whether or not to add this part into my story because it's scary. It's scary. I looked up statute of limitations in my country. I looked up the federal and the state statute of limitations. I'm beyond those. That 10 years or more. I'm past that. So I do want to make that clear. It's strange how laws work, but I am past the statute of limitations, and this is a fictional story. But there are things that happened that's a part of my story that I do want to share with you guys, that I want to be real about, or I want to be honest about. And I debated whether or not to put this out there because it's hard for me too. And I don't know. I don't want the fancy people. If I have fancy people that are fans, that's really cool. I love all people, and I think that they have their faith, their place. I don't want fancy people, and I'm realizing that. And my story, there's important parts. If I left this out, it just wouldn't be right. It wouldn't be right. So I feel like I've got to, and I don't really want to. And I don't know. I don't feel like I have to. It's not like I have to. I don't do anything that I have to do. I mean, unless like the government is forcing me to, then I will have to. But I don't want to do things that I have to do. Anyway, I will distract all day and ramble on. So, how to explain this? Where to begin? Basically, I think that earlier on in my story, I talked about Larry and Robert. And I talked about working with Larry and Robert, and they were the growers and I was the seller. And it was pretty good times, I thought, and I felt like I was lucky to get away with what I did. Larry bought me my car. Larry, I felt like he kind of turned into a sugar daddy, And I never did anything with him, because that to me is what a sugar daddy is. You maybe you go on dates, you talk to them, you might hug them, things like that, but you're not gonna be intimate with them. And they pay for a lot of your stuff, So that to me is what a sugar daddy is. And I felt like he was one among many sugar daddies that I had whenever I met my husband. And my husband pretty much told me no more sugar daddies, that he would be my sugar daddy. And I was like, well, then you need to be my sugar daddy. And he's like, okay. He didn't mind. And he did really well. And oh, goodness. To be fair, he was gone away at war making lots of money because he was at war. But anyway, all except for Larry and Robert. And I was like, you've got to meet these guys. They're so wonderful. And Larry and Robert were invited to my wedding. They were really close. I was no longer selling for them. I was just close to them. I would go visit them like their grandpa and grandpa, and my kids would just play at their really nice place. Larry had bought my car, and Larry had given me the money to move to Colorado, and then Larry moved to Colorado. Larry and Robert moved to Colorado. They followed us out there, and Larry would buy me cell phones, and he would take me shopping, and I don't know. Dave wasn't threatened by Larry, and we would go over to their house and have barbecues and all of that stuff. Well, it was coming upon the time for me to go back to the home state where also Larry and Robert were from. And, because the girls were going to go and stay some time with their father, their biological father, Zach. So I was going to be traveling across states, and they asked Dave first. And Dave said, if she's willing to, you can do it. But I would prefer that she not. And he told me that. He said, I prefer that you don't do this. Whenever I'm back in state, and maybe whenever I'm out of the military, we could discuss working with them. But I would prefer you not. But it's your life. You can do what you want. It's pretty much what Dave told me. And Larry and Robert came to me and asked if I would help transport across state lines. I can't believe I'm saying this on YouTube. This is a fictional story. Marijuana. And to me, it's not cocaine, it's not meth, it's not heroin, which I hate. It's not those awful drugs. It's just flowers. Bags and bags of flowers. And, he felt it was the perfect cover. And what they would do is, completely vacuum seal them really, really, really well. And they would be like pounds of just flat vacuum sealed flowers that would go in like pillowcases, in pillows, or, just different places. And, so yeah, I traveled across country. Basically, what I was supposed to do was, whenever I got there, to drop off the flowers and pick up money, and then mail the money to Larry and Robert. Or I could, bring the money to them at the end of the month. They didn't mind either way. And I would get paid $10,000 to do this. And so I did. And like I said in my other video, we had loaded up all of the kids and the rats and the pit bull, and we were traveling across the country. And yeah, we did. We made it, and we made it all the way. I remember crossing the border. We went through 2 states, and I remember crossing the border. I remember crossing the border into the state that we were going to arrive in, and I got pulled over. And this cop was like, what's going on? And I told him that, my kids and my husband's in war and I'm driving home to stay with family while my husband's gone. And, he like looked and the pit bull was like right there. And he was like, okay, y'all can go ahead and go on. And I was like, okay. He told me that I had a brake light out, which, I mean, that's incredibly stupid. You make sure that everything is right whenever you're going to be doing stuff like that. But I made it. I made it into the state, and I met up with one of my girlfriends, and immediately, the first thing I did was I met up at her house, and I met with Zach and his girlfriend, and I dropped the girls off, and I told them I love them, and I gave them the rat. I kept the pit bull. And I asked Zach, if he wanted to take the rats. I was like, I could take the rats. It's not a big deal. And he's like, I'm okay with that. And he's like, I don't want the girls to be upset. I was like, I don't know if they'd be upset either way. But he took the rats and he took the girls and his girlfriend and him left. And I met up with my girlfriend and yeah, I told her that I had to run an errand real quick and I drove up to this really nice, fancy house, and they told me to go around back to this really big, like, garage thing, and there was this dude in there, and yeah, it was kind of crazy. They were making weapons, and I dropped off the flowers. That's all that I did, really. And he gave me a bag that was just full of cash. I mean, full of cash. And I knew that 10,000 was mine, and the rest I was to mail to Larry and Robert, but not all at once. And then the rest I would give to them at the end, because it was over 100,000, and they told me to only mail 1,500 at a time, and they showed me how to mail it, to spread it out, and then to put paper, and then Monopoly money, and then spread it out, and it was crazy, but we would put it in this envelope, and so once a week, I would go, because I just had a bunch of cash in my money. I don't know, it felt kind of cool, but, and once a week, I would go to the post office, and I would mail 15 grand to Larry and Robert, and yeah, I was hanging out with my girlfriend, and we were having a blast with my youngest baby, because the older two were with their dad and stepmom, kind of, I thought that she would eventually be a stepmom, but I thought she'd eventually give them brothers and sisters, but it didn't work out that way, of course, but it was all good at first. And I got to see the girls every weekend. So I went and picked them up on the weekend, and I went back to my friend's house because she had two kids also. She had a kid that was the same age as my oldest daughter. No, I think she was in between my oldest and middle daughter. And then she had one that was a year older than my oldest daughter, a little boy. And my oldest daughter and the little boy, they would play a lot. And then the little girl would play with my two younger kids. And it was really cool. And whenever we got my daughter back, well, actually, it looks like we're running out of time. So that's where I'm going to be picking up next time is picking up my daughters from Zach's house and how everything went. So thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for being here today. Yeah. I'm crazy, and this is a fictional story. I can't stress that enough. It's a fictional story. So thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. And as always, be blessed with love. My story. That's all she got.